Hi, this is Emily Ionelli of TDOR Angel, and I'm going to work on a rehearsal for a speech that I plan to write. That's right, you heard it. I plan to write it. So I didn't even formulate the speech, and I'm not sure how I'm going to translate it to the written document. But it's a very important speech that I have to make, and I should be fine doing it. Actually, I'm looking forward to it, and it will be my very first speaking engagement. The irony is I'm a spoken word artist, so I should be adept at doing it, and I look at it as a training ground to hopefully going on stage eventually and maybe doing some touring because of that desire and interest that resides within me. So this event that I'm going to is really for Transgender Day of Remembrance. Transgender Day of Remembrance is generally celebrated on the 20th of November, and we're having it this Wednesday, November 25th, the day before Thanksgiving. So essentially, I'm going to talk about the common denominator that is reflected within the transgender community, how there is no common denominator, to be honest. Transgender is a composition of many types of people, and it's very hard to explain to those who don't identify as transgender. But to those who don't identify as transgender, I'm not going to say that you're lucky, but you certainly don't have the struggles that transgender people have. And the struggle in their life is immense, and it is filled with pain, and it just is very hard to deal with. I know from personal experience, but being transgender takes courage when you are facing the prospects of coming out, because a lot of transgender people face heartache. They have heartache in their life to begin with because they don't identify properly with the body to the mindset. And it's very hard for someone who can't fathom what that feels like. I guess the right term for normal cisgender. They are happy in the body they were born into, whereas transgender are not, because they don't relate. And the difficult part of being transgender is first living with the fact that you are. Then the second thing is trying to come to some form of acceptance. You may not come to a form of acceptance. You may fight it, struggle with it. Eventually it will still be there. It doesn't go away. I've tried many times to fight the feelings, but in reality, I tried to push myself to live a normal life as a man. I'm married, I have a wife, I have a son, I'm blessed. I have a 16-year-old son who's autistic, and he's the love of my life. I couldn't imagine my life without my son. But all throughout my life, I didn't feel happy with my body. I didn't feel comfortable with the way I looked. I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't feel like a guy. I was a girl, and that was the bottom line. And I wanted to be a girl because that's what I was. That was who I was. And for many people who can't understand what it's like to be transgender, it's hard to kind of explain it to them other than to just say the facts. A cisgender person has a body and the mindset is compatible, but the transgender person, the body and the mindset are opposite, and they're conflicted, always internal conflict. And transgender people are not one set of people. Like, you can't pin who is transgender because it could be anybody. It has no boundaries. I mean, there is no set definition of who is transgender. It could be anybody. There may be transgender people who are afraid to come out, and they live their lives in quiet secrecy. And that was what I thought I would live out my life to be. The male role in quiet secrecy, never coming out. However, things happen in my life personally that propelled me to eventually transition. And I'm much happier living my life as a transgender woman. And I feel I have a lot to share. As a young man growing up, I was very studious. I was athletic. I was extremely shy. But I pushed myself to do what I had to. I studied mechanical engineering in college at Virginia Tech, Nassau Community College and Virginia Tech. The school, tragically, that had the shooting tragedy, which was years after I was there. And then eventually I went back to school for accounting at Hofstra, and I got my CPA. So I kind of went from mechanical engineering to a CPA. And that was my career. And I just thought I'd just go about my life, marriage, career, son, and just live out my life. But my father committed suicide. My mom had already died many, many years earlier. And my best friend died at the age of 40 in his sleep, of sleep apnea, and I was devastated. And the combination of my dad's suicide 2 years earlier and my best friend dying 2 years later just threw me out of whack. And I started going back for therapy. And I had to talk I had to talk to my therapist about what I was supposed to do with my life. I was at a crossroads, and I decided that for me personally, I knew in my heart what I had to do, and I had to take that step to transition. And what that meant was I had to come out to people. First, obviously, to my wife and my son. And my son at the time was just a teenager, early teens, like just turning to become a teenager. And I was just about to approach 50. So I was at that point in my life where it was all or nothing. And I knew in my heart that I had to go for it. And I'm happier. I'm on hormones now for 3.5 years. And I am hoping to do surgery. I don't know when. I'm trying to schedule an appointment and hopefully work with the insurance. But that remains to be seen. But the hormones, that treatment I will be doing for the rest of my life. I was an accountant and an engineer, and you have transgender affect youth. I was a youth, transgender youth. I knew at the age of 3 I was different, that I felt more like a girl. And at age 13, 14, it was a very difficult time for me. And my earliest recollections of wanting to dress full-time as a girl was around 14 and 15 years old. But it was still very hard for me. And anytime I dressed in girls' clothes, it was in secrecy. And it was always underneath boy clothes or underneath my covers at bedtime or when nobody was home. And I could secretly dress up and look at myself in the mirror. But it was not an easy thing to go through for me. And I'm still at a crossroads. I'm not working. I've been out of work now for a couple of years. That's a problem with transgender individuals, is they face job loss, most likely, discrimination, violence, hate, lots of things. Not pleasant either. But I reinvented myself, and I've become more involved with my creative side, which I wanted to always be involved with. And I am more content, and I like to write and express myself. And I started to record as TDOR Angel. I even call myself TDOR Angel Productions or TDOR Angel Recording Artists, and I do my recordings, and then I put them on my music sites, and I create albums, and I distribute them through other websites, to iTunes and Google Play and other digital markets. So I'm doing what I think is good and spreading an important message about life, and also putting humor into things. It's, you know, and I'm spoken word, so it's not like I'm a singer. I don't play guitar. I'm not a drummer. I don't play keyboard, but I do play a little keyboard. I do electronica music, which I like. I really like electronica. And I am very much a fan of spoken word, because that's my element. That's where I feel most comfortable. But yeah, what I'm saying is that transgender people, it affects any kind of person. It doesn't matter who they are. And I think that's the key. Bye.